there. You're back. And I'm back too. I'm Toni Quest, and this is Talk with TQ. People call me TQ. You can do that if you want. I have a great guest today, and I just kind of happened upon her. I was attracted to a flyer I saw, kind of like a little sort of local playbill for a play that was going to be performed down the block from where I live. And I said, let me go see this play. I went to see this play, and I was amazed. And I looked to see who the director was, and I believe I never saw her walk out at the end of the play. But I went home, and I was so touched by the performance that I saw that I said to myself, I have to call this woman and get her on the show and find out what makes her tick. Her name is Mara Mills. She's a stage director, and I believe and also a producer. I'm going to let her introduce herself as well, but I'm thoroughly impressed with the work that she's done that I have seen, and there are other things that she's done as well. Welcome to the show, Mara.
Oh, welcome. I'm glad to be here. It's really nice.
I'm really happy to have you here too. So here we are. You were a complete stranger to me, and I called you. I didn't know who was going to walk up the stairs to the studio, and there you are. And I was really surprised that I'd seen you around town a little bit. I had no idea what you did, and then I saw this play called Ajuma that was so moving that when I left the play, I really had to just get home, come home, take a breath, have a drink, and get over it. Okay? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that play, and then I want to hear about you.
Okay. Ajuma started partially because I had worked with Katori for various things, and she had done poetry for me up at Hudson Valley Center for Contemporary Art, now HV Mocha. Mm-hmm. And I really liked working with her. And every time she told me a family story, it was like, we've got to get that out. We've got to get it out. So when I started, I had run a theater for 13 years. Mm-hmm. And then when we closed it, I started doing things in all different places, like museums and galleries and storefronts and people's front halls and any place we could do theater, which is my background, but we'll do that later. And I said, hey, Katori, how about we do a play about the 4 women in your family? Because it went from her great-grandmother to her, and it was all about mothers and daughters and what happens. So it was fascinating. It took a year to write. We dramaturged it for a year. We produced it, and now we're in the process of rewriting 2 of the characters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, the name of your theater company is Studio
Theater in Exile.
Studio Theater in Exile. And I think that speaks to the fact that you move these plays around.
Right. The goal of the company is to bring things into communities. Yonkers does not come to Peekskill. Peekskill doesn't go to Yonkers. Hartsdale doesn't go to Mamaroneck. I mean, it's the craziest thing. We're in one county,
right,
and we don't know each other. So the way to do it was to bring the work into the communities. So we were, last year, actually, Ajuma was at HV Mocha. Ajuma was in the city at Cirrus Gallery when Joanne Brody had a show. And it was down at Yonkers Library in their gallery, which we transformed into a theater. We got a grant last year for portable lighting. So if you noticed at the show, it was a full theater.
Yes.
And that was because of our grant.
Oh,
so it was really nice.
Yeah, it was a full theater. And there was something very intimate about it. And Katori, you directed her to play all these different parts in her, and also you had some other actors in it, some dancers and singers as well.
Right, who may not be in there in the next rendition.
Okay.
Because in going and getting a lot of feedback, while it was fun, they ended up being transitions, and it worked because they were extremely talented, lovely, incredible women to work with.
Yes.
But it's really a one-woman show,
right, and
it needs to be pulled in that way.
Now, you've done another one-woman show with a local artist here in Peekskill.
Yes, I did.
She's beloved, the beloved Sol Miranda.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. That was an incredible experience.
Yes.
It also started with a script, and the script came from when Lanahue was doing the community compassion project.
Yes.
that came from interviews within the Spanish community. And then Saul and I took it and kind of did the same thing. We took it, made it into a script, and put it on, and that was supposed to run 2 nights and ended up, I think, going 5 or 6.
It was very popular.
It was amazing. It really is. And I am hoping at some point Saul has time, because I'd love to put it on again in other places.
I'd love to see it. I didn't get to see it.
Oh, you would have loved it.
I know I would have.
She played 3 different characters, a mother and 2 daughters, and the mother was wonderful. But my favorite was the younger daughter, because she literally stepped into the shoes of each of the women. We decided the whole idea of I'm Here, I Belong was that this is a country of immigrants, right? I mean, we say it, it's known fact, but somehow it's being questioned now. And my dad's from Argentina, and he was an illegal alien for 18 years of his life. So it was a subject fairly important to me. And the play about what happens when someone feels unwelcome, right, in a community, and what happens when who you are is not respected. So we've gone from melting pot to cultural appropriation, and it's going to destroy American culture.
Right, so the message is really in the script. The message is in the performance as well. And Sol Miranda, she's a professional actor.
Yes, she is.
She's someone that you turn on the TV every now and then, and there she is. She's like the killer's mother or something, you know. But no, I'm not being direct, but you know, there she is.
Yep.
You know, and so you actually have some kind of simpatico with her, because she's a director as well.
Yes.
How is it with 2 directors working together like that?
With Saul and I, it was the most respectful thing you've ever seen.
I can imagine.
I mean, it really was. I come from collaborative theater, so for me, working ensemble is really easy. She's a pro, so working ensemble, and that was one of, after 30 years of directing, that was one of my favorites. I have to admit.
Does she know you feel that way?
I think so.
Okay, well,
Probably.
she knows now.
Yeah. Right? And she deserves to.
No, I have a very deep respect for her as well.
Yeah.
I've done some work with her in different ways. I think that there's something about the community, especially being artists in the community that are doing different things. I mean, I imagine you were a performing artist at some point, and now you're a director.
Well, actually, I started out in street theater.
Okay,
I started out as an anti-war actress in street theater, and boy, if you could work in a storefront, it's like being at Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
I mean, it was really, I once did a radicalized Romeo and Juliet on a fire hydrant. So, storefront theater, it's great.
Wow.
And I was always working in social justice, so that was a really important part of it. I started directing very early on, because I don't actually like being an actress.
Oh, you don't like being in front of the camera?
Yeah.
Really?
I love the process of making a play. I have no interest in going up there and doing it night after night and getting applauded.
But okay. You have to go out, and the director, producer takes a bow, the author takes a bow, but you don't really do that.
No.
Yeah.
My goal has always been the work.
It's very humble of you.
It's probably stage fright.
Oh, is it? Oh, really? Okay.
No, I don't know what it is, actually. I've always been that way, though. I had a very public mother.
Okay.
And I never quite wanted to be quite as public.
Oh. So you went like the opposite way. Well, not the opposite. You just turned the corner.
Yes, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you have that theatrical thing in your family somehow, some way.
My dad studied to be an actor, and he was at Actors Studio, which at that time was the elite place to be. He was a wonderful actor. And my mother wouldn't marry him if he was an actor, because actors don't make money.
Right.
So he had an engineering degree.
Oh, well,
so he
not too shabby.
Yeah, he went
underachiever, huh?
Right, and a law degree ultimately. He went to work for the government, and that was very secure. And at 55, he retired, the happiest man I ever met.
He did it for his family, it sounds like.
He sure did.
Yeah.
That is exactly why.
That's true love.
Yeah. In fact, the last show he was on, he was playing a bad man. And I had worked with him on the script. I had heard him going over it. So I knew who he was, and they were announcing this terrible criminal was coming to the courtroom. He's going to disrupt everything. And I stood up on my chair and I said, "That's my father, and he's a good man." Only my father could have loved me for that,
yes,
interrupting a performance. But yeah.
Yeah. So you must have been very, very good at it. You know, I'm thinking about the part that Katori played in Ajuma. And Ajuma it's an acronym for a journey you must make alone.
Right.
You know, which is why I decided when I saw it and I looked at what it stood for, I said, I have to see this because I know that I'm making a journey alone. I have been making a journey alone for a long time, so I knew I'd be able to relate to it in a sense. I appreciated the different generations that she was able to depict. How do you get this kind of performance out of a person? How do you do that?
You do a lot of storytelling, and you make sure the actress begins to embody the character. And the way to do that is, what did she look like? What did she stand like? What did she walk like? In this case, she knew all of these people, obviously. So the attributes and the movements came right from life.
Okay.
And what she really knew. Now, it's funny, it's going back, we're finding where that has to actually, for the sake of theater, change a little bit.
How so?
Well, very specifically, Diane, the mother, while there's some very important things about her, the most important thing is that after she came out of the coma, she couldn't remember raising Katori.
Yeah.
And Katori became her sister so as not to upset her mother.
Yeah.
So it was, it feels like Chinatown, right? Mother, sister, mother, whatever that is, father, lover, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And Diane was a very soft-spoken woman, but there were things about her that Katori felt were really important, and looking back on it, they have to be told in a slightly different way to make them important to the audience.
Yeah.
So that and the part of Katori, it's very hard to play yourself. It's horribly hard, unless you're just storytelling. The Katori we have to re-look at has to become a character, rather than Katori the storyteller telling a particular story.
Yeah.
So.
Well, as a director, you did a good job because I was amazed at how, because I didn't realize it was the same person in the very beginning. And it's amazing how she was able to like shake that away. She shook that away and then go to the next character.
Right, transition.
Yeah, and that takes a certain kind of skill, I imagine. I'll be very excited to talk to her about that as well. But I think that it's important to be directed well. I know it is important to be directed well. I'm being directed well. I am. I've learned how to look out of the corner of my eye and take direction. But for this kind of performance, you know, I know from method acting, you have to go so deep inside of your soul.
Well,
you have to go into dark places.
You know, my favorite story about method acting?
What's that?
So there were these two young actors, and they were going to play. They were going to be in Mice and Men. So they decided they would really feel it. So they stayed out in a wet, dirty, cold night outside.
Yeah.
And then they got laryngitis, and somebody else took their place.
Ooh, ouch.
So you can go really, really deep.
You can go a little too far.
Yeah. Actually, method acting is interesting, but it is also, there's so many other ways of doing it, of confronting a character, and Stanley Meisner calls it becoming a character.
Okay.
Means you keep 80% control and 20% of you becomes a character. Otherwise, I saw somebody lose it.
So that's the secret to the Meisner technique. Yeah, I took that.
Yeah, I like him.
I didn't understand it. I don't get it.
Oh, did you do the no exercise where you just say no to each other?
Yeah, I didn't get it. But I was able to do I went to Actors Studio for a minute, you know, but I don't consider myself an actor. I know better than to call myself. I can only be me. You know, where you say it's hard to play yourself. But she was playing people in her family. So I imagine she could draw on some things that were probably to some extent genetic?
You know, that's an interesting question. Yes, they're all very tall. Mm-hmm. There is a similarity between all of them.
Yes.
And they do. It was interesting because funny that you mentioned that. Sometimes it's not so much genetic, or you catch something. You say something like your mother did.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things we actually looked at recently, because Grandma always went, oh,
yeah, you know, she kind of barked
right?
a little bit.
Great grandmother. And so when we went to Grandma, it was. Those things started to sneak in a little bit, because occasionally Nana would do that.
Yeah. It's almost a spiritual thing, I believe. You know how it is. You know, you're growing up and, you know, you say, why are you acting like your father? You know, that kind of thing. And, you know, I'm acting like myself. You know, really, it might be a spiritual thing. The play was very spiritual, and you were able to actually do some what I saw from my lay person's eyes as very technical direction in terms of movement around the stage, and, you know, things that had to be done in order to tell the story and make it cohesive and to make it flow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, you achieved it. That's very, very good. I definitely would love to see the show that you directed with Soul.
Somewhere I have a videotape. I'll see if I can find it. Actually, the two shows we're working on now are interesting because, again, it's two women playwrights. One of them is writing a play about her experience in a Syrian refugee camp as a volunteer, not as a refugee. But her background, like mine, contains a lot of Holocaust non-survivors.
Oh, yeah.
So there is, refugees, people at the border, and one of the reasons we want to do that play is to show the analogy between a refugee camp in Liberia or in Syria and what they're calling detention centers on the border.
On the southern border.
Yeah, or the Japanese in internment camps. It is important that this is related, that every country does this and every country has to stop.
So you feel it's up to you as an artist to, you feel responsibility to actually portray this, to bring it to light.
I do as an artist. I also do because I'm a Jew. And Tikkun Olam, which is, to heal the world.
Yes.
You're told to do that. That's one of the, whatever else. You don't have to believe in God, but you do have to do Tikkun Olam.
Okay. It's important. It's important.
It's important. And which is one of the reasons we're doing this particular kind of work. So we've done immigration, we've done African-American history of generations and what happens. The other play we're doing, and it's Donna Barkman, whose work I've done a lot. I think for the past 6 or 7 years I've been directing her, also one-woman shows, but this is her 3-woman show, and it's on aging. And it's called Throw Granny Under the Bus.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah, it's a dark comedy.
A little.
Yeah. So both of them. So we're taking those on this year, and we're going to take them around, do a developmental readings for the first year, and then we'll put them out there.
What kind of response are you getting?
We're getting a fascinating response ever since we started doing this again, and I never stopped. I was doing plays up at the museum all along, but ever since we started again producing as well, I have people I haven't seen in 10 years calling up and going, "What are you doing?
Oh.
How can we get involved? What's our collaboration? You like to collaborate? Let's collaborate." So it's been wonderful. I've seen more people that I've worked with in the past week than I've seen in about 10 years.
Wow, so you're inspiring people from the work that you're doing.
Yeah, and theater people like to work. So if they find out you're doing something, they want to know what.
Yeah, sure. So it's not easy to work with everyone. I know theater people are like a special performing, I'll say, having interviewed performing artists on radio, on this show, they're definitely a different breed. There's just something I'm like, they all have this little edge, for each other. I don't know exactly why that is. Is it just the nature of the beast? Do you think, as a director, do you see it? Do you feel it?
Like I said, I've always worked in ensemble and collaborative theater, so no one stars. Yeah. You're all in it together. If you don't have my back and I don't have your back, we're going to fail.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's because of that I've collected a nice group of people all along who, yeah, you can be mad at each other, but if you know she's good for the part, you call up and you go, hey, you want to try out? You remember that part you always wanted to play? I'm doing it.
Yeah, so you invite people to audition?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes, but this, we're going to do an open call, I think, for it and see what happens.
Does it have a title yet?
The refugee play is called Paper Chains.
Okay.
Because in the camp, because there is not a lot of anything, one of the things that was the easiest thing for the volunteers to do with the children is to make paper chains.
Oh.
So these paper chains were strewn all over the place.
Okay.
And there's an interesting, you can break out of paper chains, but there's still chains. It's paperwork that's keeping these people there. It's, they can't, there's no place they can come in. Nobody's taking them in. And then, what was it, last week or the week before, a camp in Liberia was completely decimated.
Yeah.
So I like to do work that is concerned with what's going on. I'm not very good at musicals or those things.
Right. Well, not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, they're wonderful and they're great entertainment, but I couldn't direct it.
You want something with tremendous meaning. Is that what you're saying?
I want something that maybe there might be one person in the audience that thought differently, and now we get to change their mind.
That's the way ministers think.
Oh, well, okay.
When they get up there, they say, if one person gets the message, I've heard a number of them say that.
I think religion and theater are very similar, because where does it come from? It comes from the whole concept of catharsis in Greek theater.
It sure does.
So, it's interesting. Someone at the Arts Council said to me, do you think you should have put trigger warnings on Couture's play? And I said, but theater is a trigger. If you don't trigger, you don't go to catharsis. If you don't get a catharsis, why am I doing this?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So I imagine that you've gotten a lot of, I imagine you must have gotten tremendous feedback from the play that I saw that you did, So what's next for you? Like, what do you really envision in the next 5 years, I'll say, of theater?
5 years of theater?
The next 5 years of theater.
5 years of working with new and marginalized playwrights. 5 years of enjoying directing and letting Jeremy worry about the producing and money. Within 5 years, I'll get my granddaughter to start helping out on tech, because it's the best place to learn how to...
I was just about to ask you that, because you had said something about children. So your children, they're sort of involved. Are they involved in the theater at all? How involved are they?
My children grew up in theater, and my daughter did theater during college and got paid for it because she was their lighting designer. And she did events afterwards, and then it helped pay for her law school. And mock trials, very important to be good in theater at mock trials.
Okay.
My son did tech mostly. He had no desire to go on stage. Says he can't stand theater, but I catch him kind of, like
Singing
interested.
in the mirror?
No, I don't think he'd ever sing, but I catch him adjusting lights periodically.
Oh, there you go. Make sure it looks perfect.
They were in it for so long, from so young. I mean, because I didn't always have babysitters, and my domestic partner's an actor, so they spent a lot of time in the theater.
Okay.
Physically.
And you said your daughter went to law school.
Yeah.
What type of law does she practice?
She actually is in educational law. She actually works to develop curriculums, especially about social justice, interestingly enough, for lawyers for their continuing education.
Wow, that's very exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's very exciting.
Follows the same thing.
Yeah.
And I gather she, and she knows video, and she knows this, and she knows that, so she can do the whole 9 yards.
You gave her the whole big ball of wax. Yeah. So how do you like it here in Peekskill?
I adore Peekskill.
Okay.
I really enjoy it. I don't even live here, and I feel I don't even know anybody in my own town. I know more people in Peekskill. And we keep talking about moving up, so we'll see.
Yeah, no, things are doing very well here.
They are.
I'm more I'm an observer and a participant. I didn't think I'd be in this neighborhood, which is like the downtown neighborhood. I thought it 3 years maybe. It's been some years. Not quite a decade, but almost. There's something about it that just keeps you here. It's a beautiful thing.
It's an interesting place. It has a lot of, it has a lot of artists. It has a lot of artists that nobody knows about.
Yes, that's true.
And one of the things when I was deputy director at the museum, I wanted to get those artists more involved because they're doing wonderful work, but you don't see it. Sometimes open studios, right?
Yeah.
And I like being in a community of artists. It's exciting.
It's exciting. I think a lot of, when you say people don't know them, a lot of artists don't really have the wherewithal to, I don't want to say just popularize themselves, but to, if they met someone like you and you would see something in them, then yeah, that would happen. But I think those kind of encounters are few and far between.
It's hard. It is.
Yeah, I think it's important. What kind of advice would you give? You don't have to.
Keep working. I have no idea. I've been working in the arts all my life, and I have no pension. And I'm never going to be able to retire. And so what can I say to anybody in the arts? You do it because you really want to do it. Yeah. Otherwise, get a job with doing social work. My brother's retired very well.
Okay, that's
much younger than me too.
Really? Well, you have to do some acting with the helping professions as well. And sometimes there was a performing artist that lived in Peekskill that people know. His name was Brian Delma Taylor. And I remember one day I saw him walking down the street one Sunday. I was going to my church. He was going to his church. I didn't know where he was going. I said, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I'm going over to the Salvation Army to play the piano for their service." And I said, "Wow, that's really cool." And he said, "You have to give back as an artist. It's really our responsibility to always give back as an artist." And that's why he does that. And I always remember that he said that, and very meaningful.
Yeah.
And so that's one reason why I like to interview great people like yourself whenever I can, because it's my way of giving back as an artist to other artists. And all the people that are on the perimeter, that kind of in that circle that we're in, that makes us go around, that most of us aren't even aware of that they're there.
Yeah.
It's true. But boy, this was great. We'll have to interview again because I know you're going to be doing something else, Mara.
Yeah. Once the other shows are up, we can bring some of the actors or playwrights on. You can get to talk.
That'd be great. I'll find you. I'll be stalking as I do.
I have to come buy more earrings, so we're going to do it. We're going to do it up.
Okay, you have good taste, and who knows? Maybe I could costume you with some of that stuff and do some things.
Okay, yeah. I like that.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm very curious about what you're going to do next. I'm very excited about it.
I am too.
Yeah,
it should be good.
It will be good.
It will
be excellent.
Thank you.
But thank you so much, Mara.
Thanks for having me.
I never thought it would happen so fast that I'd get you in the chair. But I'm really glad I did, and we'll have to definitely talk more. And maybe there's a collaboration in our future.
There may be. I've been reading your books. There might be. Who knows? We'll see.
You know the truth about TQ actualized. There you go. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have you back. Thanks for coming back to visit again. Stay tuned. There's always more at Talk with TQ. Bye-bye.